The market of Ketherick's station never truly slept. It breathed instead. Lights pulsed like distant stars trapped in metal cages. Voices from 100 species blended into a low, rolling sound that felt more like weather than conversation. The air carried the scent of strange spices, warm metal, and something sweet that no one could name. In the center of one wide crossing stood Vela. She did not belong there anymore. Moments ago, she had been a diplomat of the Lyrari, a recognized voice, a being with history, family, and a place in the great web of galactic law. Now her crest had gone dark. The small glowing mark on her neck, once bright with her identity code, flickered and vanished like a dying star. The market noticed. Merchants paused their calls, travelers slowed their steps. Drones drifted closer, recording quietly. A ripple passed through the crowd as everyone understood what had happened. Vela had been erased, not killed, not harmed. Worse, without a valid crest, the system no longer recognized her as a legal being. She could not buy, she could not sell. She could not file a claim or ask for aid. Even the station's safety fields would not protect her if she fell or was pushed. She stood there, hands pressed against her sides, trying to stay calm. Her people were taught to show strength in silence, but her chest felt tight and her thoughts moved too fast. This was not an accident. Across the crossing, a group of tall, sharp-edged beings watched her. Their skin shimmered like polished stone. One of them lowered their head slightly, a gesture of quiet victory. They had taken her status with a simple data strike. To them, she was nothing now. The crowd did what crowds always did. It watched, some with interest, some with discomfort. Most with the careful distance of those who did not want trouble. Vela tried to speak to a passing trader, but the translator field around her no longer activated. Her words came out as soft, broken sounds that meant nothing to anyone else. The trader avoided her eyes and moved on. She felt smaller with every step the crowd took away from her. Then a human stopped. Elia's ward had not planned to walk through this part of the station. He was a cargo runner, moving spare machine parts and old earth tools to a buyer on the far ring. The market noise usually faded into the background for him, just another day among the stars. But something about the still figure in the center of the crossing caught his eye. She was not like the others. Most species moved with confidence here, shaped by power, trade, or law. This one stood very still, like someone trying not to fall apart. Elias adjusted the strap on his shoulder and slowed. He noticed the way people curved their paths around her as if she were a hole in the world. He tapped his wrist display and scanned. Nothing came back. That made him stop completely. "No ID," he muttered to himself. He looked up and saw the dark crest on her neck. He had seen erased crests before, usually on old ships or in broken systems, never on a living being. The market kept breathing around them. Vela noticed him watching. She expected him to turn away like the others. He did not. Elias stepped closer. The air between them felt heavy, charged with something the station could not measure. She tried to speak again, her voice barely more than a whisper of sound. He didn't understand the words, but he understood the tone. "Yeah," he said softly, "I get it." He looked around. The sharp-skinned beings were still watching, their attention fixed on him now. That told him enough. Elias took a slow breath and straightened his back. He raised his voice, not shouting, but clear enough to cut through the market noise. "She's with me." The words were simple. Human heavy, the crossing fell quiet. Drones froze in place. Merchants stopped calling out their deals. Even the station lights seemed to dim slightly, as if the system itself was listening. Vela stared at him. Her wide eyes reflected the glow of nearby signs. The sharp-skinned beings shifted, clearly confused. One of them stepped forward and spoke in a clipped, formal tone. "She has no standing. She is unclaimed." Elias nodded. "Not anymore." He took another step, placing himself slightly in front of Vela. "I claim her under human custodial law." The translator field around him carried his words across the crossing in 100 languages. A low murmur spread through the crowd. Human law meant nothing here. Everyone knew that. Humans were part of the galactic network, but their old traditions and strange moral codes were usually treated as cultural noise, not real authority. But humans also had a reputation. They were unpredictable, the sharp-skinned being tilted its head. "There is no such law in neutral space." Elias shrugged. "There is now." He reached back without looking, his hand opened. After a moment, Vela placed her hand in his. The contact was warm, real. For the first time since her crest had gone dark, she felt like the ground under her feet was solid again. Station security drones moved closer, their lights flashing in calm warning colors. A metallic voice spoke from above. Human trader, release the unregistered being. Elias looked up. She's not unregistered, she's under my protection. The drones paused, processing. Vela could feel her heart racing. She did not understand everything that was happening, but she understood risk. By standing here, this human was placing himself in the center of something much bigger than a market dispute. The sharp-skinned beings whispered among themselves. They had not expected this. Elias leaned slightly toward Vela. "You okay?" he asked quietly. She did not know the word, but she understood the care in his voice. She nodded once. "That's good," he said. "We'll figure the rest out." The lead drone spoke again. "Human trader, this action may result in legal conflict." Elias smiled, a small, tired smile. "Wouldn't be the first time." He turned and began to walk. For a second, nothing happened. Then Vela felt the pull of his hand as he guided her forward. The crowd parted, not out of fear exactly, more like uncertainty. Humans were known for many things: building where others conquered, helping where others traded, standing in places where logic said they should walk away. No one wanted to be the one to test what happened when you pushed back. As they moved, whispers followed them. A human claimed her. "Did you see that? They don't even have the right to." Vela's thoughts spun. Her world had been reduced to a single, strange being who walked beside her with steady steps and a calm heartbeat. They reached the edge of the crossing near a line of quiet cargo docks. Elias slowed and finally stopped. He turned to face her fully. Up close, he looked different than she expected, smaller than many species, softer. His eyes were tired but bright, like someone who had seen too much and kept going anyway. He tapped his wrist again, trying to get a reading. Still nothing. "Yeah," he said. "They really wiped you clean." Vela touched her dark crest, her fingers trembling. He hesitated, then spoke gently. "Name?" She blinked, surprised. The word translated clearly. "Vela," she said, her voice rough from disuse. He nodded. "Vela, I'm Elias." For a moment they just stood there, then a distant chime echoed through the station, a formal signal. Elias looked up, his jaw tightening slightly. "Yeah," he muttered. "Here it comes." Across the market, screens lit up with a simple message in bold, shifting text. "Legal notice, human claim under review." Vela felt fear rise again, sharp and cold. Elias noticed. He placed himself between her and the glowing screens like he could block the entire station with his body if he had to. "Hey," he said softly. "I meant what I said back there. You're not alone." The market began to breathe again, slowly, carefully. Somewhere in the station's deep systems, laws older than stars started to argue with a single, stubborn human idea. And in the middle of it all, a being who had been nothing moments before stood under the shadow of a promise that the galaxy did not yet understand. The station did not like confusion. When laws disagreed, when systems did not know who belonged where, the lights dimmed just a little, and the air grew colder. Vela felt it as she walked beside Elias, like the metal floor beneath her feet had become less welcoming. The glowing legal notice still floated on distant screens as they moved through narrow cargo paths and quiet service tunnels. Fewer beings walked here. The noise of the market faded into a low hum behind them. Elias kept his pace steady, but his eyes never stopped moving. Vela watched him closely. He did not look like a warrior. He did not carry weapons or armor. His clothes were worn and simple, his boots scuffed from long travels. Yet there was something about the way he walked that made the station itself seem to step aside. "Why?" Vela asked softly. The word came out slow, shaped carefully by the translator still working through Elias' device. He glanced at her. "Why what? Why stand for me?" she said. "You do not know me." Elias thought for a moment. His steps slowed just enough for her to notice. "Yeah," he said, "that's true." They passed a row of stacked cargo crates, each marked with symbols from worlds Vela had only read about. He finally spoke again. "Where I'm from, we have a saying. If you see someone falling, you don't ask who they are first, you reach out." Vela turned the words over in her mind. On her world, status defined everything. Rank, family, history. A being without those was less than air. "But it will cost you," she said. "They will not forget what you did." Elias smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Yeah, they usually don't." A soft, mechanical sound echoed ahead of them. 3 station drones drifted down from the ceiling, their lights shifting from neutral blue to a cautious yellow. "Human Elias Ward," the lead drone said, "you are requested to present yourself at Arbitration Hall 7. Elias stopped. Vela felt her chest tighten. Requested, he repeated. That's a nice word. The drone hovered closer. Compliance is strongly advised. He looked down at Vela. You up for a walk? She hesitated. If I go, they may take me. He shook his head. Not without taking me too. She did not know why, but that made her feel stronger. They followed the drones through a wide corridor lined with tall, smooth walls that reflected their shapes like ghost images. Vela saw herself beside Elia's, smaller, uncertain, but no longer invisible. Arbitration Hall 7 was a vast circular chamber. The ceiling glowed like a fall sky, soft and pale. Floating platforms surrounded the center, each holding a representative from a different species. The sharp-skinned beings were already there. Their leader watched Elias with a look that was not quite anger and not quite surprise. Elias stepped into the center of the room, Vela beside him. A deep voice echoed from all directions. This session will determine the validity of the human claim. The sharp-skinned leader spoke first. This being was legally erased under market law. She has no rights. The human interfered. Elias crossed his arms. She was attacked through systems, not through honor. That's not law, that's hiding. A murmur rippled through the platforms. One floating figure, shaped like flowing light, leaned forward. Human, explain this custodial law. It is not in our records. Elias nodded. Yeah, I know, it's old, comes from before we even left our planet. He took a breath. It means this. If someone is left without protection, without voice, without a place to stand, another can step in and say, you're with me now. And that means something, not just to them, to everyone watching. The sharp-skinned leader made a harsh sound. This is emotion, not law. Elias looked up at the platforms. Most laws start as emotion. Someone gets hurt. Someone else says, that shouldn't happen again. Then they write it down. Vela felt every eye in the chamber turn toward her. She swallowed. A voice from above spoke gently. Vela of the Lyrari, do you wish to speak? She hesitated, then stepped forward slightly. Her voice was soft but steady. I was erased because I stood against a trade that would have harmed smaller worlds. They did not defeat me with words. They removed me. She looked at Elias. This human did not know my cause. He did not know my value. He only saw that I was alone. Silence filled the hall, the light-shaped being drifted closer. And what do you choose now? Vela did not look away. I choose to stand where I am not erased. The chamber hummed as systems processed. The voice returned. Temporary ruling. The human claim will be recognized until full review. Vela of the Lyrari is under human protection within neutral space. Elias let out a slow breath he had not realized he was holding. The sharp-skinned leader pulled back, clearly displeased. As they left the hall, the station seemed warmer somehow. They walked along a balcony that overlooked the endless stars beyond the station's glass walls. Vela stopped there, staring out into the dark. So many worlds, she whispered. Elias leaned on the railing. Yeah, and most of them think they've got it all figured out. She looked at him. And humans, he smiled. We're pretty sure we don't. For the first time, Vela laughed. It was a small sound, but it felt big to her. A soft chime echoed from Elias' wrist. He checked the display. His smile faded slightly. Looks like word's spreading, he said. Some folks don't like what we started today. Vela felt the fear return, but it was different now, not cold, not paralyzing. What happens next? She asked. Elias looked out at the stars. Next, he said, we keep walking. Somewhere in the station, beings whispered about the human who claimed someone the galaxy had thrown away. And somewhere deeper, old systems began to change, one quiet line of code at a time. The station changed after that day. It did not announce it. There were no banners, no alarms, no grand messages on the glowing screens. But Vela felt it in the way beings looked at her when she walked beside Elias. She was no longer invisible. She was also no longer just a diplomat. She was a question. They moved through the upper rings of Kethrick's station now, where windows showed slow-moving stars and distant ships like tiny lights in a dark ocean. Elias had found them a quiet resting pod, a small space meant for travelers who did not plan to stay long. It smelled faintly of metal and recycled air, but to Vela it felt like safety. For the first time since her crest had gone dark, she slept without fear. Elias did not sleep much. He sat near the window, watching ships come and go. His wrist display glowed softly as messages arrived and vanished. Some were from traders who supported him. Others were warnings. He ignored most of them. Vela woke to the soft sound of his boots moving across the floor. You don't have to stay awake, she said. He smiled tiredly. Old habit. She joined him at the window. "What are you looking for?" "Patterns," he said. "When people get uncomfortable, they move in patterns. I like to know where they're heading before they get there." Vela considered that. On her world, power was loud. Here she was learning power could be quiet. A soft tone echoed through the pod. Elias checked the panel near the door. His face grew serious. "Looks like we've been invited again." "To where?" Vela asked. "Central Tribunal," her chest tightened. "That sounds bigger." "Yeah," he said, "it is." The Central Tribunal was not just a station court. It was a gathering place for voices from many systems, connected through long-distance presence fields. Decisions made there did not stay in one place. They spread. As they walked, Vela noticed how many beings had stopped to watch them. Some nodded at Elias. Others looked away. A few stared at Vela with something like hope. The tribunal chamber was enormous. The floor stretched wide and smooth, and above it floated dozens of light forms, shapes, and solid figures from worlds far beyond Kethrix. A voice spoke, deep and calm. "This session concerns the recognition of human custodial law." Elias squeezed Vela's hand once before stepping forward. The sharp-skinned beings were there again, joined by others who clearly did not like change. One tall figure, wrapped in shimmering fabrics, spoke. "Humans claim to protect, but protection is power. Power must be controlled." Elias nodded. "You're right, it should be." "Then why should we trust yours?" the figure asked. Elias did not answer right away. He looked around the chamber, at all the beings who had come to watch, to judge. "I'm not asking you to trust me," he said finally. "I'm asking you to watch us." A low hum filled the space. Another voice, soft and echoing, spoke. "Explain." Elias took a slow breath. "Humans don't have the strongest fleets. We don't have the biggest empires. What we have is a habit. When someone falls, we pick them up. Sometimes that gets us in trouble. Sometimes it costs us, but it's who we are." Vela felt something warm spread through her chest. The tall figure leaned forward. "Words are easy," Elias nodded. "Yeah, they are." He turned slightly and gestured to Vela. "This is Vela. She stood against a trade that would have hurt worlds that couldn't fight back. For that, she was erased, not beaten, not argued with, removed." The chamber grew quiet. "She didn't ask me to help her," Elias continued. "I just didn't like what I saw." A small, glowing being spoke up. "And if many humans begin to claim many beings, what then? Will you become rulers?" Elias smiled gently. "No, because claiming someone doesn't make them yours, it makes them safe. There's a difference." Vela stepped forward. Her voice was steady now, stronger than it had ever been in the market. "I come from a world where rank is everything," she said. "Where being erased means you never existed. This human did not give me power. He gave me a place to stand." She looked up at the floating figures. "If that is dangerous, then perhaps safety has always been dangerous." The chamber filled with quiet whispers like wind through leaves. The deep voice returned. "The tribunal will deliberate." Time stretched. Vela and Elias stood together in the center of a room that held the weight of many worlds. Vela felt small again, but not alone. Finally, the voice spoke. "Preliminary decision. Human custodial law will be recognized in neutral zones as a temporary status. Beings under such protection will retain voice and safety until formal review by Galactic Council." Elias closed his eyes for a moment. Vela let out a breath she did not realize she had been holding, but the voice continued. "This decision will be tested." The sharp-skinned leader's gaze was cold. "We will see how long humans keep their promises." As they left the chamber, Vela felt the air shift again, not colder this time, heavier. They walked in silence for a while. Finally, Vela spoke. "You are changing things." Elias shrugged. "Didn't plan to." "What if it becomes too much?" she asked. "What if many come to you?" He stopped and turned to face her. "Then we won't be alone anymore," he said. "That's kind of the point." They reached a quiet viewing deck where stars filled the wide glass wall from edge to edge. Vela rested her hand against the glass. "I used to think the galaxy was a place of lines," she said. "Borders, rules, ranks." "And now?" Elias asked. "And now," she said softly, "I think it is a place of hands, reaching." Elias smiled. A soft signal chimed from his wrist again. He checked it, then frowned slightly. "Looks like ships from 3 systems just entered the station," he said. "All from groups that didn't like the ruling." Vela felt a flicker of fear. "Are we in danger?" Elias thought for a moment. "Not yet, but we're definitely interesting." They both laughed quietly. As they stood there watching distant stars, neither of them noticed the small symbol appearing on several station screens. A simple mark, a human hand open, Below it, words spread across the station in dozens of languages. Under human protection, beings paused when they saw it. Some felt relief, some felt anger, but all of them felt something new. The galaxy was learning that a single human decision could ripple across worlds. And at the center of that ripple stood a diplomat who had been erased, and a traitor who had refused to walk past. The symbol spread faster than anyone expected. At first, it appeared only on small screens near trade docks and rest halls. A simple image of a human hand, open and steady. Below it, the words glowed in many languages under human protection. Some beings ignored it, some stopped and stared. A few followed it. Vela noticed the first one near the food exchange ring. A small, round creature with soft blue skin and tired eyes stood near a broken stall. Its crest flickered weakly, unstable, like it might fade at any moment. It saw the symbol on a nearby wall. Then it saw Elia's. The creature hesitated, then it slowly walked toward them. Vela felt the shift before Elias did. She gently touched his arm. He turned. The small being looked up at him, unsure, afraid, and hopeful all at once. It made a quiet sound, and the translator picked it up. "Does this mean I can stand here?" Elias did not answer right away. He looked at Vela. She nodded. He knelt down slightly so he was at eye level with the small being. "Yeah," he said softly, "you can stand here." The creature let out a breath that sounded like a soft sigh of wind. It stepped closer, and just like that, it began. Word moved through the station in ways no system could track. Through whispers, through glances, through hope, beings who had lost status, beings who had been pushed aside, beings who were tired of being quiet. They came, not in crowds, not in lines, one by one. Each time, Elias said the same thing. "Yeah, you can stand here." Vela watched it happen, and something inside her changed. She was no longer just the one who had been saved. She was becoming someone who helped others feel safe. The station authorities grew nervous. More screens lit up. More notices appeared. Emergency meetings were called. The tribunal sent observers to walk the halls and watch the human traitor and the growing group around him. One observer, a tall being made of shifting silver light, approached Elias and Vela near the viewing deck. "This is becoming more than a gesture," it said. Elias nodded. "Yeah, I figured." "Are you prepared for what follows?" the being asked. Elias looked around at the small group gathered nearby. The blue-skinned creature, a tall, thin traveler with cracked markings on their arms, a quiet being of soft light who stayed close to Vela. He took a breath. "I don't know," he said honestly, "but I'm not walking away." The observer studied him for a long moment. Then it bowed slightly. "Neither are we," it said. The next tribunal session was unlike any before. The chamber was full, not just with leaders and judges, but with witnesses, beings who stood under the human symbol. Beings who had found their voices again. Vela stood beside Elias, her crest glowing once more, not just restored but stronger, connected now to a network that did not exist a few days ago. The deep voice spoke. "We have observed the human action across this station. We have seen no conquest, no demand, no control." A tall figure spoke. "You are creating a new role in the galaxy." Elias shifted slightly. "We're just being who we've always been." Vela stepped forward. "This is not a human rule," she said. "It is a human invitation." The chamber fell silent. The deep voice returned, slower now, thoughtful. "Final ruling. Human custodial protection will be recognized across all neutral systems. Any being under such claim will retain legal voice, safety, and standing. This status may not be challenged by force or political erasure." A wave of sound filled the chamber. Not shouting, not cheers. Relief. Elias closed his eyes. Vela felt tears in her eyes, though she did not know why. On her world, tears were rare. Here, they felt right. After the session, the station felt different, lighter. The symbol of the open hand appeared in more places, now marked as a recognized sign of safety. Beings walked a little taller, spoke a little louder. And humans, traders, travelers, pilots, engineers, began to wear small versions of the symbol on their clothes or ships, not as a badge of power, but as a promise. Vela stood with Elias near the docking ring where ships came and went like slow-moving stars. A sleek vessel waited nearby, marked with the blue and white colors of Earth. "You don't have to come with me," Elias said. She looked at the ship, then at the station behind her. "I know," she said, "but I want to," he smiled. "Yeah, I thought you might." As they walked up the ramp, Vela paused and looked back. She saw the blue-skinned creature laughing softly with a group of travelers. She saw the quiet being of light helping a merchant fix a broken stall. She saw the symbol glowing gently on walls and screens. The galaxy, she realized, had not changed because of laws. It had changed because one human had stopped walking. Inside the ship, the engines hummed to life. Elias took his seat at the controls. Vela sat beside him, no longer as a diplomat without a place, but as something new. "What will you do now?" she asked. He thought for a moment. "Keep moving," he said. "Keep standing." The ship lifted gently from the station, drifting into the wide dark of space. Behind them, Kethric's station glowed like a small, bright world. Ahead of them, stars waited. Somewhere out there, beings would fall, and somewhere out there, humans would reach. Vela rested her hand on the small symbol etched into the ship's wall, the open hand. The galaxy had learned something simple. If a human stood beside you, you were not alone. And that, Vela thought, might be the strongest force the universe had ever known.